Okay, so tying it all together, getting back to the point of the, what you're doing with your crop plan, and I kind of wanted to have that little diversion so people had an understanding of how to rotate with families before you actually put together your crop plan. But look at where you want to be planting and pull out your early diagram and start just filling in. If you have a 3x6 garden and you've cut it up into squares, then right into the squares, salad, spinach, radish, and whatever those early crops are that you want to do, and then that's your early. If you have extra space, don't necessarily feel like you have to fill it up. You could let that spot rest. You could give that spot a chance to just sit under mulch or compost and really kind of add to your soil right there, but you don't have to use it. Or you could, you could try to max out your garden space. It really depends on what you want to do with your garden. But paying special attention to families, now that you kind of have an understanding of what belongs in a family, for your mid-season crops, if you're going to go ahead and be planting in an area that had an early season crop, go ahead and do that. Just make sure, to give you an idea, if you had radishes there, radishes are cabbage family. So you're not going to follow radishes with arugula or broccoli or cauliflower or cabbage. You'll want that to be in the spot next to it, or the spot next to that. So, you'll go ahead and do the exact same thing for your late sheet, looking at your middle sheet. You don't want to follow, like I had said before, if you want to have pumpkins in the late season, you're not going to put that where you had cucumbers. So that's the part where I think crop planning is helpful, only because it gives me a very clear understanding of what was before the crop that I want to plant. Please.
In crop rotation, how would the process differ if you're doing like in-ground versus like raised beds?
It wouldn't differ at all.
It would be the exact same.
It'd be the exact same.
Okay.
Yeah. The only difference is that, well, one of the biggest benefits of raised beds is that they generally drain really well. So I think, I can't think of like a real difference. Yeah. There was someone.
I was just going to ask, what are the benefits of raised beds?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I was just going to ask, what are the benefits of raised beds?
Yeah, so, some of the big benefits are that they drain well. If you have a low spot in your garden where it puddles up, anytime that there's standing water, whatever you're trying to grow there is gonna die. So a raised bed generally, saves you that. Also, they're real easy to work on. You don't have to bend over, you can sit on the edge. Real easy to add nutrition to. I mean, the soil temperature generally warms up than the ground, more quickly than the ground temperature. So you can usually get an earlier start with a raised bed. There's a lot of benefits to it. And I think if you're interested in raised beds, Deep Roots Project builds raised beds. They help people along with that. So
I think
please.
And also, if you're in an urban area, you don't have to worry about the lid.
It's true. If you have, a lot of issues with growing up on the west side, people painted, scraped paint off their house and just let it fall into the dirt. So a lot of our soil is lead contaminated.
if your bed's at least 3 feet tall, rabbits can't get into it.
That's true too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another way to deter rabbits is planting basil, sage, the smelly herbs.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. If they're raised up,
Yeah.
they're not going to.
Even if they could jump up there, if they can't see into it, they won't jump up because they can't see what's going, where they're jumping into.
Right. Right. No, that makes good sense.
Yeah.
Please.
I've had difficulty because I have a raised bed, but it's only about that deep, and it's someplace that I don't have control over, in growing root crops.
Okay.
But it could be that I just planted them at the wrong time or didn't do something else right.
It
I
could
mean,
be.
how much depth do you need for a good carrot and a good beet to?
Yeah, so what you want to make sure, a lot of times the problem people have with having good carrots is if their soil is compacted underneath, say, the top fluffy level, because carrots start out as a hair, and if they reach like kind of an impasse, then they're done. So a lot of times what you can do, even in a raised bed, if you have a digging fork, just to get it down as deep as you can and just rock it so you can loosen that soil. And then the carrots will be able to penetrate that. But most of the time when people have a hard time with carrots is because there's a hard layer there. Please.
Do you have any tips? So, I have a bid area and it looks like the person had the property report definitely poured paint in that area. Do you have any tips on like how to, like, should I just like remove all that soil? Should I test it? Or is there anything you can do to salvage like that area?
If you're wondering if it's contaminated or not, I would recommend having it tested, or I would say dig out the soil, or, kind of level the area and put a raised bed on top of it, to where, you can manage that soil. But, there are certainly ways to test it if you want to be certain. Yeah, please.
Do you know of any plants that bioremediate soils from heavy metals? Because I know there are some varieties that can absorb them, and then you would just like harvest those and then dispose of the plants.
I've heard of that, I've never done anything with it, and I don't know that I would trust the plant to get everything, and so, I've seen people who've made, raised beds with cinder blocks, which seems like it would be a great building material, except that you do have chemicals that leach from the cinder block, so they're, and then all of a sudden now that's in your soil, so once it's in, I think getting it out is difficult. But there may be a way, and there may be resources for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any plants that do that, but certain species of mushrooms, it's called mycoremediation. They're able to take out some, like you can contaminate soil with petroleum and gasoline, there's certain mushrooms that can extract all that.
Did anyone else raise their hand? I thought I saw, please.
I just wondered if anyone had tips on deterring squirrels.
Shotgun.
Yeah, so one of the easiest things you could do, if you're, are you familiar with Estelle over here?
No.
So, okay, so in front of Estelle's house on East, right by Fenwick, she has PVC hoops. You can get, very inexpensively, a very lightweight fabric to put over hoops where sunlight and rainwater go in, but no bugs and no animal can. And, you'll generally only need that fabric for a short amount of time, because the squirrels don't care about your produce for the whole season. It's usually a window, but I would start there. Then you don't really have to spray anything or do anything. And
And cover the whole bag, but then be able to remove it so I can work in it.
Yeah, or you could even just cover the area that you want to protect, but then, kind of lift it and paper, or like clothesline it
Yeah.
to the hoop and then do your work.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
please.
Does that go for like all, like rodents, all types of rodents?
It really does. Like this type of fabric is really helpful, and the resources that I'll show on the end will show you where you can get that.
I think that we're starting to be invaded by chipmunks. Or maybe they're 13-lined ground squirrels,
squirrels,
whatever. But they do burrow. And
Yeah.
they can climb right up any plant and just eat it to pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And, I think that might be a good, situation to use some type of natural deterrent around a border of your garden too.
Yeah.
If they work. Please.
Hardware stores of selling deer barrier
Yeah,
fabric that's a grade stronger
oh, okay.
than the stuff you might, put on to prevent birds
Okay.
from getting your food. But the other thing also with squirrels is that in my garden, they really only go after the red tomatoes. So if you plant green zebra tomatoes, they don't touch them.
They don't touch them.
And then the other thing to do is when I got a red tomato that's just about to turn a little bit golden or red, I immediately wrap a little bit of craft paper around it, and the squirrel can't find it, and so it leaves it alone.
Okay.
So you can avoid putting netting if you, it's, because it's an annoyance.
Yeah.
If it's not easy to get at your plant, you've got netting in the way. So if you prefer to cover them in paper bags, that will work, but the netting is really good if your tomatoes are like going crazy and you just can't keep up with it.
Okay.
And then you could, but then you would have to hook the bottom of the deer fabric to the raised bed
Yeah, you gotta
ledge
raise
so
that.
that they can't burrow under it.
Right.
Green
Right.
zebras work with tomato thieves in community gardens.
Oh,
You know, that if your community garden is not locked up, the people who are stealing your ripe tomatoes don't recognize green zebras.
okay.
I haven't had that problem.
Please.
What a lot of people, I live downtown Chicago, and what a lot of my neighbors are doing is we're hosting feral cat communities. So like every block has somebody that's got attached to their garage boxes for the feral cats, and you know, the treehouse is actually, I can't say selling, but you know, for $200, you're gonna get a couple feral cats, and be feeding it, they do a great job with the rats and the squirrels and everything else.
Okay.
Yeah, like birds.
Yeah.
They do a great job killing birds too.
Was there, please?
Sorry, just while we're sharing, I've successfully grown garlic for many years, and then I just sort of, November, December went by and I missed it this year. So I usually plant in November and then, you know, the spring. Can we do anything in the spring with garlic, or?
Not really.
It's done.
It kind of needed that whole
Got it.
kind of end of October
Yeah,
period.
all right.
Yeah. Please.
I was, the partitions in the garden, are you just using tape or just to like?
Or
to-
not even necessarily putting it in your garden, just so on your drawing, you kind of know how you're sectioning your garden off. So you know you've got a very small fixed space that you can, you know, kind of do it that way. If, you know, for those people who like the square foot gardening, they do put the partitions in. I don't really think that's necessary though. Okay.